They called it a jungle, but I called it home. The vines that crawled my fence weren't weeds to me, they were memories. Every blossom had a story. Every patch of soil held something I had nurtured with my own hands. But when the HOA sent me a violation letter, accusing me of turning the neighborhood into an eyesore, I realized this wasn't about plants, it was about power. 3 years ago, after my wife's diagnosis, I needed something to keep my mind from unraveling. That's when I found gardening. It started with a single tomato plant on the back porch, then a basil bush, then native flowers that attracted butterflies and bees. The more I planted, the more life returned to our home, even as her health faded. She used to sit on the porch with me and smile at the chaos of color I was creating. But when she passed, I didn't stop. I turned the entire yard into a living tribute. I learned about companion planting, medicinal herbs, soil regeneration. My lawn became a buzzing ecosystem. Birds nested in the trees. Bees pollinated the beds. Kids from the block started visiting to pick strawberries or smell the lavender. So when the HOA president, Ms. Delaney, showed up with her clipboard and told me I had 30 days to comply or face daily fines, I didn't just see a rule. I saw someone trying to erase everything I'd built to survive grief. I invited her to walk through it. She refused, called it unstructured, said it didn't match the neighborhood aesthetic. Funny how nature doesn't follow HOA codes. I appealed the violation, attached pictures of the birds, the bees, the blooming perennials. I cited research on biodiversity, water conservation, and mental health benefits of natural spaces. I even included photos of my neighbor's kids happily playing in the garden. But they didn't budge. That's when I decided I won't fight back with anger. I'll fight back with growth. The first fine arrived like clockwork, $100, tucked inside a stiff white envelope that looked more like a bill from a credit card company than a neighborhood notice. Violation of HOA Landscaping Guidelines Code. 3.2 Excessive overgrowth. That word overgrowth stung. They didn't see pollinator habitats or native wildflowers. They saw chaos. Disorder, a threat to their picture-perfect lawns and uniform mulch beds. But I didn't pay the fine. Instead, I doubled down. I reached out to local horticulture experts, sustainable landscapers, even the university's ecology department. I invited them to tour my yard, and some of them did. One professor even said, "This is what neighborhoods should look like in 20 years. Diverse, low maintenance, and resilient." The more I learned, the more I realized my garden wasn't a rebellion. It was a preview of the future. Word started to spread. One Sunday morning, a mother from down the block knocked on my door. Her son had severe asthma, and since spending time in my garden, he'd been breathing easier. Another neighbor said she'd stopped using chemical sprays on her lawn after seeing how my soil retained moisture and didn't need irrigation. Something was shifting, quietly, naturally, but the HOA didn't like it. They escalated. A second fine came. Then a notice of possible legal action. Then threats to place a lien on my home. That's when I knew I needed backup. I posted a simple photo of my garden on the neighborhood message board with one caption: "Is this a jungle or the healthiest yard on the street?" By noon, the comments exploded. People who never spoke at HOA meetings began voicing support. Parents, retirees, even one former board member who admitted he always thought the rules needed updating. I followed up with a video. Not a rant, but a tour. I showed how every plant served a purpose. Marigolds for pest control, milkweed for monarchs, rosemary for the kitchen. I showed compost bins, rain catchers, and pathways kids used to explore and learn. I ended the video with a quote from my wife: "If you plant life, it grows around you, whether people like it or not." Within 48 hours, that video had over 3,000 views. That's when the media called. The phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. "Is this the homeowner who's making waves with the HOA?" the reporter asked. "We'd like to cover your story." At first, I was hesitant. I didn't want to make this about me. It was about the garden, the community. But when I saw the local news truck pull up that Friday, I knew there was no turning back. This was no longer just about a battle over shrubs and soil. This was about questioning a system that didn't seem to care about the real value of nature or the environment. The news segment aired on the evening news, and the response was overwhelming. Local environmental groups reached out to support me. Small businesses that sold organic fertilizers and native plants offered free materials for my garden. Even the city council began taking notice. quietly hinting that maybe it was time to revisit the HOA's outdated rules. But that's when the true test came. The HOA issued an ultimatum. Remove all unapproved plants or face eviction. The message was clear. Either I gave up my sanctuary or I lost everything. It was a cold, calculated move, designed to break me. And for a moment, it almost worked. I looked at my garden, at the sunflowers that had bloomed taller than my house, at the little pond where tadpoles swam lazily through the water. My wife's favorite jasmine vine hung over the front gate, blooming with tiny white flowers in the evening air. If I let this garden go, I wasn't just losing a garden. I was losing my way of healing, losing my connection to the memory of her. But this wasn't about just me anymore. It was about standing up for something bigger. I wasn't going to be intimidated into submission. So I went public once more, this time with the full weight of my neighbors behind me. I organized a peaceful demonstration right in front of my own house. We didn't carry signs or shout. Instead, we set up tables, tents, and folding chairs. People brought food, homemade pies, lemonade. We invited people to sit and stay a while, to watch the bees buzz around the lavender, to listen to the wind rustle the leaves. We turned it into a garden party, a celebration of life. What happened next still gives me chills. The HOA tried to enforce their rules, but the pressure was too much. There were city meetings, petitions, and even a public hearing. In the end, they couldn't ignore the movement I'd started. The board finally backed down, announcing that they would review the landscaping codes and allow more flexibility for homeowners who wanted to embrace sustainable gardening. It was a victory, yes, but it wasn't just mine. It was a win for every neighbor who'd quietly admired my garden but never dared to say so. It was a win for the earth, for the bees, and for the generations that would come after me. It's been a year since that moment. The garden, now in full bloom, stands as a living testament to resilience, growth, and community. The HOA has changed its rules, no longer restricting native plants, no longer punishing homeowners for embracing nature. It's incredible how one small act of defiance can spark a chain reaction. The neighbors who once whispered behind closed doors are now openly planting wildflowers, mulching their gardens with organic matter, and sharing tips on composting. The block has become a symbol of what happens when people fight for what matters. But here's the thing. This victory isn't just about the garden. It's about standing up for yourself when the world tells you to conform. It's about refusing to let anyone dictate what your home should look like, especially when it's something that brings life and healing. That garden is still the healthiest spot in the neighborhood, not just because of the flowers or the vegetables, but because it's where a community learned to come together. It's where I learned to let go of fear and let the earth show me how to rebuild. I still walk through it every morning, Maverick by my side, taking in the quiet hum of life all around us. It reminds me of why we fight for what matters. The garden is a reflection of our persistence, our ability to grow and bloom no matter the odds. And I want you to know this could be your story too. If you've ever felt like an outsider, like your dreams of creating something beautiful don't fit into someone else's box, know that you have the power to change things. Start small. Start with a single plant. And don't let anyone tell you your garden is a jungle. Let it be your sanctuary, your rebellion, your triumph. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. If you've ever fought back against unfair rules or just created something beautiful out of love, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And remember, sometimes the wildest things are the most beautiful.